Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for Roofing Contractors Best of Success podcast show, and welcome to Legal Insights. I'm Jill Bloom, group publisher of Roofing Contractor, and always honored to welcome our legal expert, Trent Cotney, partner with Adams and Reese. Trent, thank you so much for joining me.
Jill, it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yes. Well, it's not hurricane season right now, but when it comes to hurricanes, especially Florida, Trent, I mean, clearly it's obtaining property insurance can be extremely challenging. And it sounds like a few weeks ago, Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law Senate Bill 2A, which took effect just January 1st. And it sounds like it could be confusing at first. Can you give us some insight and what do contractors need to know?
Sure. And, we talked about some changes that Florida made here. It was just a few months ago. And, it's become a crisis level situation here in Florida because property insurance is skyrocketing. Nobody wants to provide property insurance here because of the number of claims. So the governor and his staff has aggressively worked to try to alleviate some of the problems and some of the concerns. And in this latest law that's been passed, there are a variety of things that affect, both the contractor and the insurers. So just to kind of hit it high level, from the insurer standpoint, one of the things that we've had a lot of complaints about from, storm and restoration contractors is the amount of time that it's taking insurers to process claims, to respond to homeowners. This law, what it does is basically shrink a lot of those time tables down. So it requires insurers to act quicker. It requires them to maintain detailed claim documents. Okay, so a lot of times, they have to be able to say, I received the proof of loss on this date. I requested information on this date. And all that's important because we don't want insurers to delay processing these claims for homeowners. On the contractor side, they have effectively eliminated what's known as assignment of benefits, which is where a homeowner can assign the proceeds to insurance policies to contractors. That is effective for any policies or claims after January 1st, 2023. But that was a big push that affected a lot of the court system as far as lawyers bringing those claims. Along those same lines, Jill, they have completely eliminated the one-way attorney's fee provision that allows, lawyers that are filing these types of claims to get attorney's fees.
Yeah, so what does that mean?
What that means is that, the only way right now that you can file suit against your insurer moving forward is for what's known as a bad faith claim. So if an insurance company hasn't acted in good faith, that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then there's a body of law that governs that. But if you're trying to, in the past, what you would see a lot is you would see an assignment of benefits where attorneys would be filing claims, and they'd be filing claims because they know that ultimately there would be an attorney's fees award there. So they would be getting paid for whatever they do. They take it on a contingency basis. And that was driving a lot of the litigation, a lot of the increase in pricing that we're seeing. So that's been cut away. There's a variety of other, very detailed provisions that kind of go into what's what. And, what I did, Jill, is provided sort of a detailed article that kind of went into all the highlights of it. So I think that's going to be a great resource for, contractors moving forward.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you, Trent. I was reading through that this morning, so we really appreciate your insight in that. If anybody wants to read more on that article, it will be posted on both Roofing Contractor and Walls and Ceilings for everyone to dive in and read that too. But let's shift gears just a little bit, Trent. Let's talk about winter safety. I mean, that blizzard that went through New York was unbelievable. I mean, it felt like there was, I don't even know what the final number of feet, not inches, of snow that fell. You couldn't even see the cars that were in the road.
Yeah, it was crazy. And, unfortunately, we had a lot of phone calls from roofing contractors in the Northeast and the Midwest that had injuries related to the cold weather. The primary injury that we see is black ice. It's you're on a surface, whether it's on a roofing deck or down below or wherever it is, and it warms up. In turn, that freezes again, creates ice barrier, and it creates a lot of slip hazards. So we see a lot of falls, we see a lot of slips and people hitting their heads. Big issue there. Obviously, hypothermia, making sure that you're taking breaks just like you would in the summer, where you're taking breaks for hydration. You got to do the same thing to make sure that if you're working during those kinds of that kind of weather, that your crew is being heated up, that they've got proper PPE, that they've got all the stuff that they need to stay warm. A lot of places, I know in Chicago in particular, they don't do a lot of work during the winter. And that's probably the norm. But if you are doing work, make sure that you are really mindful of the surfaces, as well as keeping your crew safe and warm while they're out there in the temperature.
Yeah. And what about scaffolding? Did you have any scaffolding injuries? I mean, what if a contractor had scaffolding, like a wall and ceiling contractor, and they needed to be outside? How did that work? Did you get any feedback on that?
We did have one. We had one that there was what happened in this situation is the contractor did not give the crew person proper gloves, and they were wearing like a cloth or knitted glove. They went to go grab a surface. That surface slipped on the scaffold railing, and they ended up falling off the scaffold, roughly 10 feet. Sustained some injuries, ended up having to go to the hospital, and now we're defending the OSHA part of it. It is a dangerous surface when it's not cold and frozen, but you add that to the mix, you add ice to the mix, you add snow to the mix. And here's the other thing, Jill, is people don't realize that when it is that cold, your dexterity isn't what it is when you're warm, right? You lose a lot of the ability to react. You're just not as mobile as you are when temperatures are room temperature. So really be mindful, do toolbox talks on and train your workers on making sure that they remain safe, have the proper gear on, and take breaks when needed. Yeah,
no, there's no doubt. That's really important. So let's also talk a little bit about some stucco related claims that you were just mentioning that are really important, especially for our wall and ceiling listeners.
Sure. Stucco is a great system, right? I mean, it's been around for a long time. It has a lot of uses, throughout the U.S. And it's very important that it be installed correctly. There's a lot of times where you see that, stucco hasn't cured properly, or the 3-coat system hasn't been applied, or whatever it might be. And in those situations, especially in new construction, where you've got stucco, on the exterior, if you have cracks that form, make sure that you're doing your best to address those cracks as quickly as possible. Now, and I know that most of these are just superficial, so it's fairly easy to, caulk them or seal them so that you don't have issues moving forward. The problem that I've seen, Jill, is that there are a lot of, plaintiffs lawyers out there. We've seen this especially in California and Florida, where they are filing suit for, the home builders, against home builders that, where these cracks manifest, oftentimes around windows, or you might see the stair step cracks when you have, block masonry. They in turn bring in the sub. So they will bring in the stucco contractor, the framer, the roofer, so on and so forth. And it's just really important that you address these contractually. Make sure there's an arbitration provision in there to dissuade those jury trials that plaintiffs' lawyers want. And then make sure that you are aggressively responding to cure any of these issues, before they manifest into bigger problems.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Trent. If anybody has any more questions for you, what is the best way to reach you?
Sure. They can hit me up via email, trent.cotney@arlaw.com.
Sounds excellent. And if anybody has any questions for us, it's roofingcontractor.com, wconline.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for all our free content, whether it's our e-news, our website, for our videos, just so you can always stay up to date on all the great content we're posting, especially like we are today with Trent. But most importantly, stay safe and healthy and stay warm. And we'll talk to you soon.